Good evening, everyone, and hope our day is going well. Picture yourself on a flight, and suddenly the pilot announces, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry we cannot land this plane." I can imagine what will be going on in your minds now. My name is Agatha. I'm a public servant with over 14 years of working experience. And my topic for today is what I learned in my last trip to Kano and Route Castina. I work in an organizations and we have field offices all over the country. And the mandate of my department is to set standard and monitor these field offices. About this time last year, I was to go for such monitoring exercises to Kano and Route Castina. And before now, I hate traveling, either by road or by air. By road, especially with commercial vehicles, because of the recklessness of the drivers, and especially now because of insecurities. Then by air, I have phobia for flights and heights. But since I got into my new department, I had no choice other than to make these journeys because it was one of my KPIs. So on this particular journey, we took a flight, permit me to withhold the name of the airline. We took a flight to Kano. The journey was smooth. When we landed, I was so excited, I was happy, I thanked God, and I sang the praises of the airline. My colleagues were just laughing, but I was just happy because the taking off, the landing, everything was smooth, so I was happy. We got our job done in Kano, and we were to go to Castina by road, and I was told it's like 3 hours. And remember I told you I don't like journeying by road, but I had no choice. But luckily for me, a staff was asked to take us to Castina. Since he has his family in Castina, I was like, okay, at least this one, we can control him on the way when he's overspeeding. And luckily, we got to Castina safely. We got our job done in Castina, and we were to fly back to Abuja. Immediately, we got to the boarding room, the waiting room in Castina. I kind of like felt a kind of way. I was nervous. I was afraid. I was like, this flight, am I sure I want to travel? I was like, if I don't travel with this flight, how am I going to go back to Abuja? Going by road was a no-no. I was like, this feeling, get behind me, Satan, get behind me. After all, on the same flight that we took to Kano, that we are taking back to Abuja. I was like, I tried to overlook the fear. Because there was no other way I would come to Abuja. I have to be on that flight. So the plane came, it landed, and we boarded. Immediately we took off from the ground. I don't know what happened. It was as if the plane wanted to drop. And I felt the kind of way. In short, everybody felt it. I was like, yes, this is it. I said it. My feeling told me, why did I join this flight? I was scared, or I was already scared. And I started praying. And lo and behold, the plane kept flying at a very low altitude. No, for like 10 minutes, I was still seeing the houses and the streams. No, it didn't go into the sky. I was scared. I was like, and I was very sure by then that something was wrong. And I thought maybe the pilot was just trying to manage to do an emergency landing in Kano. So I was scared, I was nervous, I almost passed out. But like after some minutes, it was able to go to the cloud. And even at that, it was never stable. A lot of turbulence. The seat light belt never went off. The air hostesses, everybody were all seated. Nobody stood throughout that journey. So we had a very turbulent flight. I was scared. In short, I lost my breath. I was hungry. I was dehydrated. In short, I almost passed out. Everybody was just seated, praying in every language that they know how to pray. So we were able to maneuver, we managed, and finally we got to Abuja. The pilot announced, okay, we're in Abuja, we'll start descending. I was thanking God. And when immediately I started seeing the houses, the streams, you will be happy, at least we will soon land. All of a sudden, the plane took off again back into the sky. And here comes the great announcement. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot land this plane. I was like, is this going to be the end? A lot of thoughts ran through my mind. I was scared. They said we were not cleared for landing. We try again. He went back to the sky, came back second time. He could not land. He went back, and then he wasn't talking to us anymore. The third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time, he was just turning, and it wasn't as if it was smooth. You know, the process of turning, it was terrific. I was like, okay, finally, this is how I'm going to go. At a point, I just picked my phone. I said, let me quickly transfer all the savings I have to my children. At least let them enjoy my 14 years of working experience. A lot of thoughts came to my mind. My husband, my kids, so they are not going to see me again. So this, I'm just going to die. You understand? So finally, I think about the night time. And thank God I had a bottle of water in my bag to rehydrate myself, because nobody was talking to anybody. The air hostesses, everybody was seated. No food, no water. And this was like 4 p.m. I have not taken anything for that day. So finally, I think about the night time, he came and finally landed with a lot of struggle. And that was when we discovered that it was a heavy downpour in Abuja and he wasn't cleared for landing. A journey that was supposed to be for 45 minutes, we took like 2 hours plus in the air. The lessons I learned from that trip was to, like, in situations like this, just stay calm and have a positive mind. Because if I had passed out in the aircraft that day, it would have just been for nothing. And the second lesson I learned from that trip was to, if you have kids and they're of age, let them in. But what I mean by let them in is, let your children know what you have, your investments. If you have savings, let them know. If you have properties, let them know. Because you can never tell, anything can happen at any time. So that you won't have a lot, and when you go, your children will suffer. Moments of uncertainties reminds us that life is fragile. So we should live our life with purpose, love one another with sincerity, and in every step of our life, we should trust God. Thank you for listening. Once again, my name is Agatha Ibo.